All right, let's turn over to the book of Proverbs. Chapter 23. And let's look at verse 17. Let not thy heart envy sinners, but be thou in the fear of the Lord all the day long. And I'm sure that I've said this before, but I will repeat myself because I'm sure it needs to be done. God's not going to take away everything wrong, bad, or evil from your life. He will expect you to take some action yourself. Let me talk to you a little bit tonight about getting control. What most people in America don't have anymore is control. And here's how you know that. And I'm not picking on anybody here, all right? But you hear these people advertise for these debt organizations that'll get you out of debt, which, can I tell you, they don't. Okay, it's a leader. But these people say, well, I had over $30,000 in credit card debt. Why? I understand an emergency comes along, I understand that. But even in an emergency, my wife has never, ever not sat down, first of all, and said, well, okay, we can pay this off in 3 months or before the interest is due. Amen. But most people don't have control. They just go down and buy whatever they want to buy, and then all of a sudden they look at their bills and they got, $55,000 worth of debt. So then they're going to cry to some agency to spare them that, but you've got to pay this agency. They make it sound like it's a free deal. It's not free. But because they don't have any control over their life, they don't have any control when it comes to spending. First credit card we ever had, I think, was Sears. Is that it? Yeah. And we really didn't want to get that, but it was getting to the point where if you wanted to do something, you had to have that credit card. And, boy, we guarded that thing like a first baby we ever had. And because, wow, we didn't want to get Sears sending us $2,000. And that day, if I'd owed $2,000 to Sears, it'd been the same as $20,000. People don't have any control on it. I'm not, like I said, I'm not picking on you. I don't know if anybody in here has got that problem, but if you do, man, you need to get on your face before God and ask Him to help you with it. Because you probably didn't need whatever that you wanted. Let's consider the word of the Apostle Paul found in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 12. Now, I don't know, there's a couple of these guys out here that are debt guys, Christian fellows. I don't know who they are, but I don't pay much attention to names. But isn't it funny that they'll hold a seminar at a church, and he'll get up and tell them the same thing the preacher said it, but if the preacher said it, they're going to be mad at him. People are funny. So that's why I just say it, because it doesn't make any difference. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, look at verse 12. All things are lawful unto me. Yes, you're allowed to have a BMW. Okay? But all things are what? What do you need one for? Just to show off? There's a couple of cars out there that I'd like to have. There's that Mustang. It's got that big engine in it, 750 horsepower. Say, what do you need that for? I don't, but I'd like to have it. Amen. Why? Because while it's lawful, it's not expedient. I had my muscle cars, and I sold them. I had my muscle days, okay? I'm an old man. At 750 horsepower, I'd kill myself. Because my reactions aren't what they were when I was 23, Russell. Amen. So he goes on to say, all things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the what? Power. And that's what happened. People lost control of their life. And this, I can have it, I have a right to have it, control them, and the next thing they know, well, those cars are $50,000, $60,000 now. Oh, yeah, I'm not talking about the muscle cars. I'm talking about the regular car. The muscle cars, well, it's got to be $120,000 or something. You know how long you'd be paying for that? You'll have bought 3 cars.
6 years.
Paul's saying that while things are lawful for him, he would not be brought under the power of any. That is, he was in control of things, not things in control of him.
Amen. Amen. That's it.
And you got to get past that. Over the years, we've had many times we had a discussion, well, can we afford it or not? If we can't afford it, then we'll do without it. Amen. And there's sometimes we've had to just let it go because we weren't going to spend that kind of money and get ourselves in debt and had to pay that kind of interest. If this is bothering you, just keep looking straight at me, see, and then I won't know. But if you drop your head, I'm just trying to help you is all I'm trying to do. But I'm afraid in this day, in this age, the things have the power and we give it into them. And we get lots of help, TV advertisements and all kinds. You get lots of help. You can't go. Remember when you went to Kmart and they had the blue light special? Yeah. Oh, there's a blue light special on aisle 27, and what was that about? Getting you to buy something you didn't need, but the blue light, hey. Money, prestige, jobs, sports, family, and so on are lawful, but often not expedient. But rather than controlling them, they control us. Look down here in verse 27. Well, that's not right. 9:27. Yeah, here we go. But I keep under my body and bring it into subjection, lest by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. You have to bring it into control. For some of you, it'll be harder than for others. Some of you just know how to control it. Others don't. And that's why they get in this, way over their head business. Don't know what to do with it. There's a lot of things I'd like to have that would be, I think, convenient, but I can't afford them. They'd be convenient. And I'm not so sure that all the conveniences of this life that we're living in are really conveniences. Amen. I think there's a whole lot of stuff on Amazon.com that you could just leave alone. Amen. But preacher, that's a $5,000 item, and they're selling it for $4,560.72. Yeah, what a deal. His biggest concern is that he would lose control, and listen, and become a castaway. One whose life has become discarded or has become adrift without hope of return. I've heard people say, not necessarily in a money area, but in some other areas of life, preacher, just too much. I can't do it. And I'll tell you why in a little bit you can. It's sad. You know what he said in chapter 4 of Proverbs? He says, keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the what? So, where we get problems is here. We get heart problems. And the devil knows how to work on those. Whatsoever in your heart will eventually come forth and testify as to who you really are. Often some know that the fact that before is revealed to everybody else. What the word issue means implies two things. which is to give out of the, which is give out or go forth from a source. And the thing or things to be discussed or dealt with. So the hatefulness and the spite are revealed in your actions, in your face, is simply a testimony of what's in your heart. When you lie or steal, or you do something else, it's a sign of what's in your heart. People say, well, they was born on the wrong side of the tracks. No, the tracks didn't have anything to do with it. It's the heart. It's not the tracks. It's not where you were born. Listen, some people have come up in some terrible situations, drunken dads and whoremonger moms and all kinds of stuff, and then turn out to be good people and love the Lord and do things. If you don't listen to Free Indeed, you ought to. Amen. Say, why is that? Just tell you, no matter what kind of life you have, there is hope. Amen. But what people do is they give up when they get themselves in a situation they can't get out of tomorrow. They give up. I've had my days, folks. I didn't grow up smart. Okay, and I pulled a couple deals one time. Not anything terrible bad, but I had to end up before an unsaved man. That's not good. Why? Because I lost control. No, the opposite is also truth. That is when you're honest, loving, and kind, it's evidence that this is what resides in your heart. What's he say? Keep your heart with all diligence. It's about what? Yeah, but I mean, what's it about? If you keep your heart, what are you doing? You're controlling. It's about control. If you lose control of your car, you're probably going to end up in the ditch and you may end up dead. You have to guard against the things that go into your heart as well as those that come out of your heart. The word diligence implies one is careful and persevering in their efforts. Some people only look at surface reasons. Look at things that might be affected further on down the line. Think about this as a family. What might affect your kids? Sooner or later you learn your children, don't you? And you learn that each one of them is uniquely different than the other one. Amen. And that one of them may be affected by one thing and he may or she may speak up and say, but Mom, and the other one won't say anything and just walk away and go in their room and brood. Why? Because they're different, and you have to realize that when you're controlling or not controlling, you're also affecting what's sitting at the table with you. And we as parents have made mistakes. We didn't mean to, but we lost control. The things the young man is to deal with here in this verse is probably what plagues about 98% of Americans, envy. Envy. I wish I had one like they got. Well, I wish I had one of those. You better watch out for that wishing that you had. There's somebody listening, and I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. There's somebody listening who wants to get you in trouble, and his name's Satan or the devil. And you start envying, and he might just find some way to help you get that little thing that you wanted. And then once you're stuck with it, he just backs off and goes. Why? He doesn't care to help you. He's there to get you in trouble. Envy is a desire to possess the things of someone else. So why is a man a thief? Because he wants something somebody else has, so he's going to steal it. It's a matter of control. He's lost control of his life. Why does a man go, get himself in trouble, get arrested, go to jail, get out of jail, and turn around and go out and do it again and get in jail, get out of jail and turn around and do it again? Why? Because he's lost control over his life. He can't control himself. I said to a young man one time, now when you get out, get your nose clean and get you some new friends. In 2 months, he was arrested for home burglary and he's in the jail. Why? Because he lost control of his life. And there's nobody in this room that's not above that or past that can get in the same trouble. Oh, don't think of yourself more highly than you ought to think. It might even be a desire to be like someone else. A lot of times, young people have that problem. They want to be like some actor they saw or some actress. Or they want to be like one of their friends. I knew of a young person that, in order to keep a friend, she lied about herself. And when it was finally discovered that she lied, to ask why she did it, she says, because I wanted you to be my friend. You don't get friends by lying. They may be your friend for a little bit until it's discovered that you're not telling the truth. Then you're going like, well, what did you do that for? Well, I wanted you to like me. Well, now I don't know if I can like you. Why? Because you lied. And once you lie, it takes people a while to trust you again. Proverbs 27. You know what a dope addict is? Somebody who's lost control. They have to have what they have to have. They'll steal, they'll cheat, they'll lie, they'll do everything. They'll sell themselves to get what they want, thinking that if they get what they want, they're satisfied and everything will be okay. And it's just the opposite. It's just the opposite. (27:4). Wrath is cruel, and it is. And anger is outrageous, so it is. But who is able to stand before? Isn't that something? Sometimes people envy others because they got a certain job or they make a certain amount of money. Well, I wish I had that job. I wish I was as rich as they are. That's called envy. And it will get you in serious trouble. Why? Who can stand before it? Nobody. Nobody in this room. If you get envious of what somebody else possesses or envy of something that you can't have unless you indebt yourself. Car dealers. Bad credit, and all that kind of stuff. We can get you a car for $99. You know what all that is? That's to get somebody who's sitting on a pew, get them in trouble more than they're in. Now, there's more behind that $99 than you think. And I always yell, read the fine print. And before you sign a piece of paper, you better read the fine print. Because once you sign your name to it, Proverbs 6, you're stuck. You made surety. I told my wife, I said, I've had more honest people who are lost than I have had Christians. A guy knocked on my door one day. And as a pastor, I get people knocking on my door. Don't as much as I used to, but... And, preacher, can you help me out? And I'd say, what do you need? And so that, well, I don't have any food. And I learned, it took me a little time to learn, don't give them any money because that turns into booze and cigarettes. Right. So I'd say, well, I'll buy you some groceries. I'll buy you a meal, whatever you want. Well, I'm going to pay you back. I'm going to pay you back. I can't tell you how many paybacks I have never gotten. Knocked on my door one day, and I went to the door, and it was somebody that I knew, not well, but he was from in town here. And he said, Pastor Heaton, he said, I'm in need of some gas. And he said, if you could loan me $20 till next Friday, I'll be here to pay it, and I'll give you this knife. Well, it was one of those $100, $50, $150, $200 knives. It wasn't, jackknife out of his pocket. He said, if I don't come back next Friday, you can have this knife. Guess who showed up on Friday next week? Out of all I've ever had, that's the only man who ever came back. Why? Because people lose control of themselves. In Acts 7:9, we learn that envy, we don't have to look at it, envy is what caused Joseph's brothers to sell him. And listen. You got several children in your family. How many of you guys got now? 6? 5? 6? Okay. But all of them aren't old enough to realize something. But if you buy one of them a nice shirt and you don't buy the rest of them something, they're going to go, you must love them more than you love me.
You don't have favoritism yet?
Yeah. And then they begin to envy one another. And I know I don't need to have you turn here, but Matthew 27:18. Why did they sell out Jesus?
Envy.
Out of envy. Pilate knew that out of envy they did it. I can't imagine how many churches, homes, people's lives have been shot because of envy. I mean, in 46 years I've been here, I've seen it over and over again. You can say what you want, but you can't treat all of your children the same. Why? Because they're different. You have to treat them according likewise. So is it in the church? A pastor can't. Jack Howes wrote a book called different types of church members or whatever it was. I can't remember now. I read it. It was a good book. It's a good book. I know some people say, you read Jack Howes' book? Yeah. I read Dr. Ruckman's too. That'll get them to shut up. And here's a good one. Brother, here's a good one. Philippians 1:15, Paul talks about some of the brethren, because of envy, attacked his ministry. I wouldn't be surprised, and I've never been on the mission field, quote unquote. I wouldn't be surprised there are missionaries who suffer that very thing. Somebody's envious of some man's ministry because Brother Griggers, somebody said Brother Griggers probably had one of the best ministries they've ever seen. He went over there to Austria and built that church, and I was there in the church. I preached there. And I mean, they filled this auditorium would have been the size of that church, and they filled it and had seats along the side and seats in the back. And there'd be some guy say, well, he probably compromised. Oh, shut up. No, he worked hard is what he did.
Amen.
And he's still working hard. He's kind of like me. It just doesn't quit. It keeps going. So don't lose control of your life and let envy ruin your life. Okay? It happens to young people all the time, and I'm sorry, but if you don't follow what God says, that's where you're headed. You are to control this desire. You are not to let it make you want what is wrong or bad for you. Well, they do it. That don't make it right. It took me some years to figure that thing out. My mama used to tell me that.
Amen.
Just because they're doing it doesn't make it right, Paul. And the thing about it was it was people that I looked up to that was doing it. And that's the harder part as a young person or, even young couples, families. Sometimes it's hard to see that somebody else is doing this and, boy, they're just prospering right along, and you think, well, look at that. The Lord's blessed them, took care of them. Well, you can say that, but that isn't necessarily true. But even if it was, if that's not what the Lord has for you, why would you want what the Lord doesn't have for you? I mean, at least Job knew that you could receive bad at the hand of the Lord or good at the hand of the Lord, well, you can also receive evil. And you know what he did not do? He did not give credit to the devil for any of it. If there's anything we need to learn is control of our life, quit giving the devil credit for things that he didn't do. And even if he did, if the Lord let him do it, then give the Lord credit. Look at Proverbs 24 a minute. I'm sorry, Psalm. What did I say? Psalm 37, I'm sorry. I don't know what I was looking at Proverbs for. There's no Proverbs written there, but I guess at my age I'm seeing words that aren't on the paper. I think this is the key that David give us for desire, if you will, please. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. He didn't say he'd give you a Cadillac. He said he'd give you the desires of your heart. Maybe the desires of your heart are wrong. Maybe that's the problem you're having. Maybe you're wanting things that you shouldn't have. I am positive and sure that there's been over the years things that the Lord did not let me have. I mean, and I'm serious when I say this. I mean, if the Lord would have opened an opportunity for me to go get a muscle car, I'd have went and got one. Did I need one? No. No, my wife's shaking her head. Nope. Because she can't do a clutch anymore. So.
Well, they got paddle shifters now.
Oh, do they?
Shifter.
That's sick. I like this.
Does it for you. Fast.
So they say. Delight thyself also in the Lord. We delight ourselves in the wrong kind of things. That's why we lose control. Amen. I mean, to be honest with you, it's pretty hard to pray, Lord, if you permit me to have one of them, I'd like to have one. Lord says you don't need one. You can't afford to put the gas in the car you got now. What would you do with that? You start those things up, it takes 2 gallons. The one thing that will cure our sin problem is the right desire, the right want. The end of our text says that we ought to be in the fear of the Lord all day long, our Proverbs 23 text. And I think, and even in my own life, I know I find it's not an easy thing to be in the fear of the Lord because we're so involved anymore, so much going on. My calendar looks like somebody took a paintbrush and threw it at the I look at the calendar and say, is there anything we got to do today? What doctor are we seeing today? Our life is so involved and so much to go on that we almost sometimes forget the things that would be most important in our life. And that's why I get up early in the morning and start my devotions and my Bible reading. Because if I don't, it's the middle of the day ain't going to happen for me. That's nap time. This fear will keep check upon our envies. And it will help us to say no to the wrong things and yes to the right things. The reason we get messed up is because we did something that we knew was wrong. I don't mean that it was bad, sin, wicked, immoral. You can do things that aren't immoral that are not good for you. Had we had the same fear that Joseph had, then we would have ran instead of taken place. Listen to this. The fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. The fear of the Lord is clean. I want to emphasize that because in this day and age, when you talk about the fear of the Lord, people say, you want to make people fear God? That's not right. Well, we're not talking about the fact that you're shivering behind a corner somewhere and you're afraid of God. That's not what we're talking about. We fear God in respect of who God is and what God can do. I mean, what do you think What do you think it is to be saved and go into heaven, and you're serving the creator of the, not just the universes. Sometimes do you good to sit down and just going through Job here for our Sunday school lesson. Be interesting. Sometimes maybe you ought to read Job just for the plain sense of reading it to see what you can find in there. There's a pile of stuff in there. And the problem with this Job is it's hard for the Sunday school lesson because it's monologue. It's Bildad the Shuhite saying something, then Job answering him. There's not much practicality in what goes on there. You really have to search for it, but it's there. And the nice thing is you can figure out, at least that I have so far, is that Job never loses control of himself. Doesn't mean that every statement he made is fair and right. It just means he never lost control of himself. And if what could be said about you or me is that, well, one thing about it, they never lost control of themselves, that would be a good testimony. So you can't go wrong in exercising the fear of the Lord. Only in not controlling desires of the heart. No one can make you do right. No one can make you think right. Only a healthy fear of the Lord and the control of your heart will bring about the results that someday no one, or you will be when there will be no regret. When you can look back and say, I don't regret. Now, come on. All of us have to admit there's some things we look back we regret, but that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. I'm talking about decisions that you made. You prayed about them. You felt that was the right thing to do. You did it. Where we make a mistake is we feel like that's what we should do, so we do it, and then we go, oh, that wasn't good. You got to have control. And that's something that so many people that I meet day in and day out. Our jails are full of people who lost control of life. And they felt that their decision was as important as anybody else's, and it wasn't. It wasn't. And you have to ask yourself, if a Christian sins, knows it's wrong, have they lost control of themselves? I'll let you make that decision. I think you know the answer to that question. Control, that's what it's about. And I don't mean control of your life and you're not letting God have his way. You're simply controlling yourself so that you don't get, as Paul said, you don't become a castaway. Because can I tell you that out here in this area here where we're living right here, in little towns and places around here, there are Christians who are sitting at home on Sunday because they lost control of themselves. They let something else be in charge of their life. Family, friends. I told my wife, I said, more people, there'll be a picture. You got those two pictures, did you not, sis? Okay. I'm going to show you the first, I think it's the first old-fashioned day we had. I'll show you this church building right here. So packed you can't hardly get anybody else into it. What happened in those days? People lost control of themselves. And some of those very people were visitors who came every Sunday in the summertime. And then when they moved up here, they suddenly found a motorcycle gang. A lot more fun. Father, help all of us to get under the control of the Holy Spirit, first of all. We get under the control of the Holy Spirit, we might find making decisions and controlling our life a little bit more easy. Help these folks here tonight, Lord. I don't believe any of them are bad or done anything wrong, but Lord, help us all, preacher included, that we get control over some things. Maybe that reason why we don't get this done or that done is because we've lost control.